to stall for just a few minutes, waiting for people to join in who like to join us live. But many of you actually watch this after the fact. And so today we're actually jumping in with kind of a deep topic. It can be something that's hard for us to talk to our kids about as parents. We talk to each other about it a lot, myself as a parent. And so I've actually pulled in our Director of Family Ministry, Phil Bell here, who has a lot of wisdom to share with us today. But before we get started, while we're waiting, we would love, for those of you who are watching, no matter when you're watching this, if you could share this, if you watch this and you find it valuable and you know somebody who would love to hear this content, please pass it along. Go ahead and like it, send us some comments.
Hit the wow button. The
Yeah,
wow button's
there's
the
a
one.
wow button?
There's a wow button. You know the big face like,
Oh,
that's the wow button.
All right, wow
Yeah.
button gets us a lot of likes. So if you could wow this, that would be even better. One of the reasons why we do this is because we definitely see ourselves as wanting to partner with you. That means we want to come alongside you, but partners, there's two sides to that. And so we know that you as parents have a lot to offer as well. In fact, at the end of this week, you're going to be receiving a gift if you partner with us and share your thoughts and are the lucky recipient of this back to school bag. We do believe that we can do more together, and some of you are going to listen to this today and have some comments to add that are going to help us get better, and they're going to help parents who are watching this with us get better. So I think we've probably stalled long enough.
So do they need to comment to win that?
Yeah, as we're going
Okay.
along, I'll cue you to comment, and some of those things that you share will set you up to be likely to win this, and that can be all the way through this coming Friday. We will have our family ministry administrative guru, Kathy Luparello, choose that winner like we usually do. But so just keep listening and wait for those times to comment. But I think we could probably go ahead and get started. Phil, why don't you share with us what we're going to be talking about today?
Well, yeah, it's a tough topic, as Heather expressed, and we're going to be talking about mass shootings and 5 ways to help your kids fight fear with finding hope. And so it's a tough topic, but it's something that is in our world today, but parents and kids alike are just are concerned about. And so we're going to jump into that and try to navigate through that and hopefully give you some ways in which you can help your kids at home.
Yeah, and if you stay all the way through, you'll hear at a minimum 5 solid things that Phil has to share with us today. And so you can check those off as you go. If you're taking notes or if you want to go back and reference this later, you will be able to do that. So Phil, why don't you kick us off with your very first point?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say this, the world that we live in today is so different from what Heather and I grew up in. I think, you had instances like Columbine, and we heard about it, but it seemed like it was a world away and it wasn't likely to happen to us. And I think the world that we live in today is not only are there more instances of these mass shootings, these sort of things happening, but the media, the social media, the availability of all the details is just like front and center, is brought into our homes. And even our kids, even at young ages, we're finding are hearing about it. Now, it might be through their devices, it might be because they hear it on the news or some other media, but they're hearing about it from other kids at school because everyone's talking about it. And so, whereas before maybe it seemed like a world away, it's almost like it's in our front room now. And we have to be aware that it just amplifies our own fears as parents, but also for our kids as well. So I just want to say that because it's important to realize that the world has changed a lot, and I think it will continue to change as well. So it's happened a lot more regularly, but it's seen by us so much more.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but that's true.
Yeah. So, the thing as parents, it can happen. If you're like me, I hear something on the news, you hear something that's happened, and my immediate default is to start thinking about my own kids. They're in school. We went to the movie theater a couple of weeks ago, and you start thinking about things that maybe you didn't think about before. If I'm not careful, if you're like me, if we're not careful, it's easy to start letting our brain just go 100 miles per hour and start thinking about all the things that we're concerned about. And before we know it, we ourselves are wrapped up in fear as well. And so the first point I really want to make is pray first and point our kids to God. And it's in those moments of fear and struggle, I think that we need to ourselves model for our kids what it means to depend on God and turn to Him. There's that verse in Philippians that talks about, do not be anxious about anything, but pray about everything. This is one of those daily pray about everything moments when we're sending our kids off to school or our kids are out of the house. It's something that we need to be doing, but we need to pray first and allow God's peace, but transcends all understanding, to guide our hearts and minds in Jesus. And so, even though that's a simple thing to do, in practice, I just want to hold on and I want to be concerned and I want to stay in that place. But it's in those moments, in my quiet moments as a parent, I just need to be quiet. I need to let God's Spirit speak to mine and allow Him to comfort me and allow Him to show me that He's in control.
Right.
And allow me to say to God, and this is the hardest thing as a parent, is to say, God, my kids are yours. I give them to you today as they go to school or as they hang out with their friends. And allow God to speak into that moment and to give me peace as I release my kids into His hands for the day. And so it's a daily thing that we need to be doing. We need to be ourselves praying first. But then with our kids in those moments, if they start talking to us or they seem to be concerned or they've said something, we need to say, hey, let's take a moment. Let's pray about this. I've been praying about this too, by the way. Let's pray about this together right now. And then for us as parents to say, God promises to give us peace when we ask Him. Let's ask God to give us peace right now.
Yeah.
And let's do that together. So that's the first thing, is to pray.
Yeah, and I think connected to that, we all know our kids will repeat the things that we say sometimes that we don't want them to repeat. And prayer is much like that. It's a tool for our kids, and for them to hear us verbalize our prayers gives them a vocabulary to be able to use to be able to talk to God about the same things. If there's times when they feel like they might not be able to talk to us, I think that's a really powerful to pray for your kids, but to pray with them too.
Absolutely.
As well.
Here's one thing I'll add real quickly. There's a guy called Rick Lawrence. He was actually here just at the weekend training our youth workers, amazing guru in youth ministry. He told me once, he said, our kids will tend to stay close to our spiritual orbit. So if we are following God, our kids will follow that lead with us. And so that's why that is so important to point them to God and to be in prayer first and foremost.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so pray first and point them to God. What else?
Well, I think, the important thing is to process their feelings with them. If you've got very young kids, under the age of 5, studies that I've read, a lot of the time, processing their feelings, there might be just a few thoughts that they get or that they give you. But as they get a little bit older, that you are going to have kids who are going to be alarmed and concerned about stuff. They might have heard something from a kid at school. They might have seen something. It's important to try to create opportunities that are both intentional but also teachable moments that allow you to process with your kids. One of the things that we learned from Rick Lawrence actually at the weekend, when he was talking about leading students in particular, was every child has like what he calls is a vulnerability style. And with that, some of our kids are going to be more vulnerable in different moments. So looking for those moments for your kids to be vulnerable, to process what they're feeling. For some of us, it's when our kids are going to bed. Now, you might think that they're just trying to stay up later, but a lot of the time, tiredness is a vulnerability style. So at nighttime might be the time when you are able to process that with your kids. Another time might be when you're just on a walk with them, or when you're doing something, or when you're shooting hoops or doing some sort of sport. Try to find ways in which to process what they're going through. And sometimes all they need to do is just be able to express what they're concerned about and say what they're scared of and say what they're worried about. I think a lot of us who have, I speak to a lot of families who have taken opportunities to have counselling. Sometimes what counsellors will do for us as families is just allow us to process the things that are in our head that maybe we can't get out. What we need to realise as parents is when our kids are younger, we give them an opportunity to learn to process. We're actually helping them to learn to work through tough stuff like this. So process it with them is really, really important.
Yeah, I think it's really important that setting up intentional times to do that, because I know for myself, we can just get so busy that the time just passes by. And so for myself, I even have appointments on the calendar that are with my kids, and those are obviously loose appointments. It's not like we're having a one-on-one meeting, but but on every Wednesday afternoon, my 13-year-old knows that we're going to go right after school and we're going to get ice cream. And so 9 out of 10 times it's just ice cream and maybe silence. He's 13. But for that 1% or that 10% of the time when he actually does open up and share something, he knows this is a place where he can do that. And bedtime, absolutely, with younger kids is a time where it should be an easy tether point to be able to come back to and give them a space to be able to talk about things. That's great. There's going to be some articles that are linked in this after this live broadcast that you actually can get some more ideas from, but this is one of those spots where we would love to have your ideas. There's probably other parents watching this who could benefit from hearing what it is that you do. What are the times that you build into your day? When are the times that your kids open up most to you? You may have some ideas that none of us have thought of, and so I'd love for you to comment and share those things with us. So, all right, we've talked about praying and pointing them to God. We've talked about giving opportunities to process their feelings. What's another thing that we can do, Phil?
Well, I think this is so important, and this is not rocket science, but as a parent, I find myself not being aware or doing this as much as I should, if I'm honest. And really, it's protecting our kids from certain medias. media is so in our houses today and in society in such a way where we've always got our devices. But I think as a parent, sometimes I forget that, when the TV's on or there's a particular movie or news, or if I'm watching a video on my iPad, sometimes I forget my kids are just watching over my shoulder. And it's easy for violent things to come into our homes more than ever. I will say this, also just having common sense as well about what things we take our kids to watch in the movie theater. I'll be honest, the PG and the R ratings and everything, and the ones that you would think sometimes is going to be safe for your kids to watch, I'm discovering my standards are not the world standards. I go to movie theaters and I'm seeing people get shot to pieces, and things are happening, and I'm looking down the road and there's little kids in there. Now, I've probably been one of those parents too myself at times, but as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that the kids can't see certain things, and what amplifies our kids' struggles when it comes to a lot of this stuff that's happening in our world is if their brains have been uh, filled with things that are scary. We are creating this foundation of fear in some ways if we allow them to see a lot of stuff like that. So we need to use common sense, and we need to think about the things that are in our house, the movies that we're watching. And it's challenging. In our house, we've got like older kids and we've got younger kids, but we have to find ways in which our older kids can watch appropriate movies for her, but find other ways to send the other kids off because it's not good for them to see it. We start to forget when we've got older kids too. So protect your kids from the media, but could potentially create that foundation of fear anyway.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we kind of miss out on is having our kids think that we're protecting them for perhaps the wrong reason, that they can't handle
Right.
it. And as your kids start to get older, they start to feel like, well, there's this whole world of things that you're just not showing me because you think I can't handle it, and they do come to think that they can. And so, being very honest with them about why you're even protecting them is important too, especially with your older kids, with your 12 and your 13-year-olds who are right on that brink and they're caught in between a phase. I think it's really great to say to them, hey, there's just some things that I would like to be the one to help you process through this, because once you go there, you can't come back. One of my great friends, Tasha Lavere, she's been on this podcast
Yeah.
before, says that she used to tell her kids, hey, you're born with this much kid, and it decreases because of some of the things that we get exposed to or some of the things that happen. We just want to leave as much kid in you as we can. I think we all wish that we had more kid left in us. It's important to know too, some of the experts have said, I jotted a couple notes down here, that for kids who are under 5, if they're not asking you these questions and they're not exposed to these things in school or hearing them anywhere, there's really no reason to bring it up. Other than to give them things that they cannot process through anyways. And then for your older kids, this leads us to our next point actually. We're protecting a lot, but for our older kids who we know, if we're being smart, if we're having common sense, they're going to interact with this stuff. What is it that we can do to get ahead of it for them?
Yeah, I think simply put is prepare them for something that could happen, because we can talk about, we can pray and we can seek God, we can protect them from certain things, but what's going to be helpful for them is to prepare them with a potential plan of what we do. So I think for tweens and older, this is what we're talking about really, is to talk about, okay, so what would you do if something happened? And I think giving kids concrete things to think through and having a plan does build confidence. As long as we've prayed first and we say we're trusting God in this and it's very unlikely to happen. So framing it that way, but then saying, but in the very, very minimal chance that something like this would happen, what would be the plan? What would you do? Where would you go? What is your family plan when you go somewhere? If you go on vacation, you've got a family plan for where you're going to meet. Maybe you've got a family plan for what you're going to eat. What's the family plan that maybe you talk about in a very general way that you've got to help your kids? So what would you do? Just trying to help them have an assurance of there's a concrete plan in place.
Right. This kind of can send kids into a sort of a crisis mode. We plan for other crises, so why
Right.
would we not plan for this?
Exactly.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So preparing them, and then that's fourth point here. So one more. What else do we need
One
to
more.
do, Phil?
Well, this is the last thing, and probably this is the one that if I get passionate, this is the thing that's going to send us over time. And I just took 15 seconds to say that, so I'm very conscious of our time here. But I think that I would say is parents on mission, and this. What I mean by this is how can you as a family impact your family, impact your community and neighborhoods positively. As I've done a lot of reading and research recently and over the years, there's a lot of debate out there about what does cause someone to be a mass shooter. I've read lots of different studies, and No one can really land the plane on what really they think is accurate and right. But a lot of studies do say that mental illness is part of it, but it's only about 22 to 25% of mass shooters are claiming to have or have been shown to have mental illness. In the APA, the American Psychological Association, a lot of their studies are showing that there are certain factors that do contribute to someone getting to a point where they feel like they are desperate and they've got nothing else to do than to do something ghastly like this. And so some of the factors that I can point you to that we can be a part as we're on mission as a family is to make a difference in our community. So a lot of the things that they point to are lack of relationships in the lives of young men in particular. There's a lack of family a lot of the time, and there's a lack of community in the lives of these individuals. So what can we do as a church? What can we do as a family to parent on mission? So for us, we're doing this Project Classroom initiative right now, which has been absolutely amazing. But we're going into our community, into the schools, to make a difference to the lives of these students in our schools, to make a difference in the lives of these parents who are right there in the trenches with these students. There are things that we can do in our neighborhoods to reach that kid who maybe is in a difficult situation, who maybe doesn't have the family dynamics that they need, who maybe doesn't have the community. We can parent on mission by talking to our kids about, hey, it's the start of the school year. What would it look like if you looked out for those kids who are sitting at the lunch table, who are on their own and feel like they've got no one to look for, no one to look to, and no one cares about them? What can we do to help our kids to live on mission like that? You see, I think that we can talk about all the things in our society that people debate about politically. We can talk about the importance of media. But I think the thing that we're missing in our lives today as families is that relational connection that we all need. We need that community. And so parenting on mission means taking our whole family and saying, right, we're going to make a difference. We're going to be the church in our community. We're going to reach these kids that maybe don't have anyone looking out for them. We're going to meet their needs in tangible ways. We're going to love them where they are. We're going to teach our kids to love kids where they are as well. We're going to say, look, we know that we maybe can't control what all the politicians are talking about. We can't control all these other factors, but what we can do is we can be Jesus and we can parent on mission with our kids to make a tangible difference to the other kids, to the other families, and ultimately to our community. And that's why we exist as Hope Community Church. We want to reach the triangle and change the world. We want to love people where they are and help them to grow in their relationship with Jesus. It starts with loving people where they are. We need to parent on mission.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you who are watching this right now, you're in the minority. You're watching this, and you're leaned in because you care about these things and you want to know these things. There's plenty of other parents out there who aren't not watching this because they chose not to. They just aren't thinking these things. Or there's kids who actually need people in their lives who think the way that you do. And so, first of all, share this with someone else. But second of all, recognize that we do have a collective responsibility for the other kids who are in our lives and in our neighborhoods and are in our schools. And get involved in a kid's life. Don't wait for it to be asked. Go ahead and invest now and get ahead of what could happen in a kid's life that could lead them to a place of such emptiness and brokenness that they would become a person on the other end of what we're talking about. So
there's something else I want to say this, and again, this is going to make us go long. This is so important. We've been talking about be one of five. We've got this number called 5 to 1 we talk about here at Hope. Can you tell us a little bit about what that idea is and how that can actually help parents parent on mission?
Yeah, sure. It's based in just common sense statistics. Anyways, if you have one adult in your life who really cares about you and spends time with you and invests in you, then obviously you're better set up to have confidence, to believe in yourself, and honestly, in our context, to believe and have a hope in Jesus that you are worth coming after, that you're worth the rescue. If you have more than that, even better. And so 5 isn't a magic number, but we think if you as a parent look around in your child's world, or you look around in your own world, and you try to put a network of support, a team of support around every kid that consists of at least 4 other people besides yourself, that kid is going to be far better set up to succeed and be resilient when things like, even like what we're talking about, come up and they're not really sure what to do. When you don't have those intentional times with your kids, you can set up those intentional times with one of those 4 other people. My 13-year-old has people that he definitely feels that he's tethered to. 2 of them actually are involved in the student ministry here. One of them took him out for coffee yesterday. And so those people are people that I trust that he could share these things with, and they would help him process just as I can do that with them. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. And we would encourage every single one of you to not just see yourself as a mom or a dad or a grandparent or an aunt or a teacher, whoever's watching this, but as one of a group of 5. Invite somebody else to join you on your kids' team, but be a part of another kids' team too. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, there are kids in your neighbourhood right now. There's kids that you can probably think of right now as you're watching this who maybe are going through some challenges, and you see them, and I believe that God has given you a chance to see them.
That's right.
So that you can be one of 5 influences, just helping and support that kid. I was one of those kids at 14 who got invited to go to youth group. I had a very absent father who was always working, and if it wasn't for 3 incredible men in my life, I have no idea where I would be today, and it was because of their investment. So we make a difference in our communities, and I believe that the church can make a difference to stop these things happening when we invest in kids and children.
Yeah.
And we see that it's our responsibility. I used to say it takes a village to raise a child. We are a new village. We are that village. We are that village that's going to invest in those kids. So parent on mission.
Yeah. Be the
Yeah.
village.
Yeah.
Kathy was supposed to stop us, and she didn't. So this is her fault. She's behind the camera.
Yeah.
So Phil mentioned that we're a part of family ministry here at Hope Community Church. If you're not a part of our church, we do believe strongly in our family ministry, and so I'd love to share with you a couple of announcements and things going on at our church. Starting with that, we have a thriving middle school ministry here coming up this Tuesday, August 27th, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at our Apex campus is our first all-in squad night. It is called a Big Splash Night, and so if you think that your kid is interested in 10,000 water balloons and a bunch of foam, give them a towel and send them to All In Squad Night.
That sounds like a mess.
It does sound like a mess.
Wow.
If you go to the Morrisville or the Raleigh campus and it's closer for you to get there, there are shuttle buses that will be running to our Apex campus. So you can go online and find out more about that. We'll send you links. If you're interested, or your child is interested in being involved in our high school ministry, or they are currently involved in our high school ministry and don't know that we have small groups that meet all over the triangle, this week small groups launch, and so we are going to ask that you download the Hope Student Ministry app as the easiest way to get into a small group or to get your student connected to that. We have a thriving marriage ministry here. We have a re-engage class that we barely have to promote because it carries by word of mouth so much power. It's already sold out at our Raleigh and our Apex campus, but our Morrisville campus still has spots available. And so if you sign up at gethope.net/reengage, you can get in on that this time around. We'll post that link. And then I actually work in Kid City. I don't even think I said who I was. My name is Heather Sullivan.
Heather's awesome.
I work in Kid City.
Kid City Director extraordinaire.
We would love for you to be able to stay connected with what your kids are learning on the weekend. And so we've talked about this before, but we're just going to say it again. If you download the Lifeway Kids app, you will be able to stay connected with what we're teaching on the weekend. And we will also give you a link to be able to do that. But if you want to do it right now and not wait, you can. For adults, if you're an adult or if you're old enough to be watching this right now, we have a small group connect coming up this weekend. Anybody who is old enough to be watching this is old enough to be in a small group, and so we would love to get you connected. You can find out more on our website, gethope.net. And if you did not do it yet, please share your comments so that you can win this lovely prize.
And by the way,
anything else to add?
Comments-wise, we would love to know what is it that we could help you with. We want to partner with you. We want to help resource you. We have the ParentHub.net, which is a resource website. We're uploading current articles regularly on there. But if it's something you want to learn about or something you need help with, comment in the section below just to make sure that we can keep on updating things that you really care about, and we'll keep posting it out on our social medias as well, just so that you can keep up to date with the things that we're providing for you as we partner with you as well.
Absolutely. We don't want to talk about stuff you don't care about.
Absolutely, yes.
All right. I think we're done here. You done?
I'm done. You
All
done?
right. Yeah, I'm done.
Brilliant.
We'll see you guys later. Have a great day.